The night was freezing, the air thin with the chill of Christmas Eve. Adam Carter, a single father struggling with crushing debt, found an elderly man named Mr. Henry Wallace, huddled in the trash-filled shadow of an alley, trembling and utterly lost. Adam, driven only by the spirit of the holiday, chose compassion over caution, bringing the amnesiac stranger home to share his meager Christmas. But what Adam didn't know was that this seemingly pitiful, forgotten man carried a monumental secret. For weeks, Mr. Henry was just a simple helper in a small diner, yet something about his hands, his eyes hinted at a life of authority of high stakes. The truth lay hidden under layers of trauma waiting to be unleashed by a single faded piece of paper. When Adam finally discovers the true identity of the man he saved, will that life-altering revelation shatter their quiet existence, or will the debt of kindness be repaid in a way Adam never dared to imagine? Please support us by subscribing to the channel. The air in Portland, Oregon, bit with the sharp, clean sting of mid-December. By 7 o'clock, the temperature had already plummeted, threatening a hard freeze overnight. Adam Carter pulled the collar of his thin, worn coat higher, the familiar, comforting smell of stale grease and burnt coffee clinging to the fabric. His shift at the Maple Street Diner had ended 10 minutes ago, and every muscle in his back screamed its complaint. He was 35 years old, but the endless juggling act of single fatherhood, mounting medical debt from his late wife and working 2 jobs had given him the weary posture of a man 20 years older. He carried a heavy black trash bag through the swinging door into the alley behind the diner. The alley was a narrow chute of gloom, dimly lit by the single buzzing yellow security lamp above the back door. As Adam dragged the bag toward the dumpster, the metal wheels grating loudly on the concrete, he saw it a slump of tattered blankets and cardboard near the back fence. It was a common sight. Homelessness had become a fixture in the city, another problem too vast and complex for a man like Adam to solve. Usually, he walked by quickly, head down, telling himself he had nothing to give. But tonight was different. Tonight the air was not just cold. It was Christmas Eve. Adam dumped the bag with a heavy thud that made the figure shift slightly. A low groan escaped the pile, and a thin, trembling hand emerged, reaching instinctively toward the discarded waste. The sight froze Adam in place. The hand was withered and spotted with age, the fingernails broken and grimy. It grasped at a soggy piece of discarded bread crust, pulling it back quickly under the blankets like a small, frightened animal. A jolt of pure, unadulterated pain shot through Adam's heart. He stood watching the muffled figure and the familiar, self-preserving arguments, "I can't afford to help. He could be dangerous. I need to get home to Lily," died instantly in his mind. This wasn't just a person. This was an old man alone, starving and freezing on the night before Christmas. Adam took a deep, shuddering breath. He glanced back at the diner door. Ms. Ruby, the owner, was a tough, practical Irish woman who believed in minimizing waste, but would absolutely fire him if he was caught taking anything that wasn't paid for. But tonight he didn't care. He turned back and slipped silently through the door. Inside, the kitchen was already mostly shut down. The air still hung heavy with the aroma of grilled onions and bacon. Adam moved with quiet urgency, grabbing a fresh foam container. He found a piece of leftover meatloaf still warm and spooned a generous helping of mashed potatoes and gravy next to it. He stuffed 2 dinner rolls wrapped in foil into his coat pocket. Theft, he knew, but the meatloaf was destined for the dumpster anyway. He was back in the alley in less than a minute. "Sir, excuse me, Sir," Adam called out softly, his voice barely a murmur above the city hum. The mound of blankets flinched. Slowly, a face emerged, framed by a thicket of tangled gray-white beard. The eyes that met Adam's were pale blue, vacant, and clouded by a deep, weary disorientation. They were the eyes of a man who had been lost for a very, very long time. I brought you some food." "It's warm," Adam said, crouching down slightly and holding out the container. The old man stared at the food, then at Adam, then back at the food as if trying to decipher a complex riddle. After a long pause, his trembling hand reached out and took the container. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice dry and raspy. He lifted the lid, and the steam rising from the hot meal seemed to momentarily chase the chill from his face. He ate slowly, deliberately, the simple act of chewing seeming to require tremendous effort. Adam remained crouched, watching. "What's your name, sir?" The old man paused, his brow furrowing as if the effort of remembering was painful. I don't recall. They call me Henry sometimes. Mr. Henry Wallace." "Mr. Wallace. Okay, my name is Adam Carter." Adam hesitated. The man looked fragile, genuinely ill, and desperately cold. The thought of walking away and leaving Mr. Henry to freeze alone felt like a moral abandonment Adam couldn't bear, especially tonight. "Mr. Wallace," Adam began, his voice firmer now. "It's Christmas Eve, the coldest night of the year so far. You can't stay out here." Mr. Henry simply nodded, pulling the blanket closer. "I know." A familiar, icy fear tried to creep back into Adam's chest, the fear of the unknown, the risk, the financial drain. He had rent due on January 4, 2018. He couldn't afford charity. He had a 6-year-old daughter, Lily, who deserved to be safe. But then Adam pictured Lily's face open, pure, and bright with the uncomplicated magic of Christmas. He thought of his own mother, Mrs. Carroll, who had sacrificed everything after his father passed in 2000 to keep a roof over their heads, instilling in him the one unshakable rule: always help those who cannot help themselves. This was not about logic. It was about the true spirit of Christmas. Adam made his decision. It was reckless, impulsive, and possibly the most dangerous thing he had done since the night he held his late wife's hand for the last time in 2015. "Look," Adam said, speaking quickly before he could change his mind. "I know this sounds crazy. My place is small, just a cramped apartment above a pharmacy, but it's warm. My mother and my daughter are there. It's Christmas Eve. I can't leave you out here to freeze. You need a proper bed for one night. Come home with me. You can share Christmas morning with us." Mr. Henry stopped chewing. He raised his pale blue eyes to Adam, and for the first time there was a glimmer of something beyond confusion, shock, suspicion, and then a fragile flicker of hope. You would do that? For a stranger?" "Yes," Adam said, simply standing up. "Yes, I would. You're coming with me." He reached out a steady hand, and after a moment of profound hesitation, Mr. Henry took it. Adam helped the frail man to his feet. Mr. Henry swayed unsteadily, clutching the meatloaf container like a treasure. The walk back to the apartment was slow. Adam kept his hand lightly on Mr. Henry's back, guiding him through the dimly lit streets. Mr. Henry walked with a hesitant, almost shuffling gait, his body leaning slightly as if trying to steady himself against an invisible current. When they reached the old brick building where Adam lived, the window of their second-floor apartment glowed warmly through the drawn curtains. That single square of light represented safety struggle and fierce love. Adam paused at the bottom of the stairs, taking a final fortifying breath. He was bringing danger and uncertainty into his home, but he was also bringing a lost soul in from the cold. He pushed the door open to the comforting smell of Mrs. Carroll's simple chicken soup. Mrs. Carroll was standing at the stove, her posture showing the fatigue of her double cleaning shift, but her face softening instantly when she saw Adam. "Adam, you're late, sweetheart." "Lily has been." Mrs. Carroll stopped mid-sentence. Her eyes widened as she took in the figure standing silently behind her son, the tangled beard, the torn clothes, the deep exhaustion etched on Mr. Henry's face. The silence that followed was thick with unspoken questions. Adam stepped forward. "Mom, this is Mr. Henry Wallace. He was freezing in the alley. He's lost his memory. It's Christmas Eve. He has nowhere else to go. I couldn't leave him." Mrs. Carroll was a woman who didn't waste words or emotions. She studied Mr. Henry closely. Her brown eyes, usually sharp and quick to judge character, softened. Perhaps she saw a memory of her own late husband in that frail frame, or perhaps she simply saw a human being in need on the holiest of nights. She wiped her hands on her apron and gave a long, audible sigh. "Well, come in then, Mr. Wallace. You look half frozen. Adam, help him to the couch. I made extra soup." Adam nearly wept with relief. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you." Mr. Henry shuffled slowly toward the old worn couch, sinking into the cushions with a grateful groan. He clutched his food container, barely believing the warmth and the safety surrounding him. Mrs. Carroll quickly brought him a mug of steaming soup, gently setting it on the coffee table. "You can rest here tonight. We don't have a spare room, but we have blankets and safety." It's a blessing," Mr. Henry murmured, unable to form a more coherent sentence. Just then, a small, sleepy voice chirped from the hallway. "Daddy, is that the Santa Claus?" Lily stood in the doorway, a tiny figure in pale pink pajamas, her brown hair sticking out endearingly. Her eyes, wide with curiosity, focused entirely on the strange bearded man on the couch. Adam knelt immediately to meet his daughter's eye level. "No, sweetheart. This is Mr. Henry. He's a friend who got lost. He's going to stay with us tonight because it's cold outside and it's almost Christmas." Lily tilted her head, observing Mr. Henry without fear or judgment. Then her face broke into the most radiant, pure smile Adam had ever seen. "Hello, Mr. Henry. Welcome to our Christmas Eve." Lily took a hesitant step closer. "I can show you my Christmas tree. It has lots of lights." Mr. Henry looked at the small girl, then at Adam, then at Mrs. Carroll, who was watching with a gentle expression. In Lily's eyes, he wasn't a problem or a burden. He was simply a guest and a person who deserved warmth. A shaky, genuine smile finally touched the old man's lips. It was the first true smile Adam had seen from him. "Hello, little one," Mr. Henry whispered, the sound cracking slightly with emotion. In that cramped, poor apartment, under the warm, humble glow of the kitchen light and the pure acceptance of a little girl, Mr. Henry Wallace was no longer a stranger. He had been brought in from the darkness not by wealth or power, but by the simplest, most profound act of human kindness on Christmas Eve. Adam Carter, in overcoming his own fears, had given the greatest gift of all. The day after Christmas dawned with the clear, blinding light, typical of a Portland winter morning. Inside Adam Carter's cramped apartment, the air was warm with the lingering scent of pine needles and the memory of Lily's joyous squeal over the inexpensive but carefully chosen presents under the tiny, tinsel-laden tree. Mr. Henry Wallace was already awake. Adam found him standing awkwardly by the small kitchen table, the clean clothes Adam had lent him, an old flannel shirt and slightly too big jeans hanging loosely on his frame. He looked less haunted than he had 24 hours earlier, the lines of cold and despair around his eyes softened by a night's sleep in a real bed. He was meticulously folding the blanket Mrs. Carroll had given him, his movements slow but precise. "Good morning, Mr. Wallace," Adam said, pouring himself a cup of coffee. "Sleep well." Mr. Henry flinched slightly, still unused to the sounds of a busy, small apartment. "Better than I have in... I don't know how long, Adam. Thank you. All of you. I truly don't know how to repay your kindness." Adam shrugged, handing him a mug of coffee. "A hot cup of coffee and a warm seat is payment enough, sir. We're just glad you're safe." "I need to leave soon." Mr. Henry stated, his gaze drifting toward the closed apartment door, the anxiety of his uncertain future instantly clouding his eyes again. "I can't impose on your family any longer, especially since I can't remember my own life, let alone where I belong." Just then, Lily burst out of her room, energized by the holiday and dressed in her favorite pink unicorn pajamas. "Daddy, can we have Christmas cartoons and toast?" She paused instantly when she saw Mr. Henry. "Good morning, Mr. Henry. Did you like your sleep?" That simple, open question from the little girl brought the second genuine, shaky smile to Mr. Henry's lips. "Good morning, Lily. It was wonderful, thank you. Mrs. Carroll emerged from her room, dressed for her morning shift at the community center. She gave Mr. Henry a gentle, appraising look. "You're looking better, Mr. Wallace. But Adam is right, we're not letting you out on the street yet." She looked pointedly at Adam. "Adam, you walk Lily to Mrs. Kim's house after you drop him off. Drop him off where Mom," Adam asked, frustration rising, the thought of sending the frail man back into the cold, knotting Adam's stomach. Mr. Henry stepped forward, his expression suddenly resolute. "I don't want Adam to drop me anywhere, Mrs. Carroll. I can go with him." He turned to Adam, his pale blue eyes surprisingly steady. "Adam, I need to work. I can't sit around doing nothing. I feel restless. I don't know what I did before, but I know I wasn't idle. I want to help you at the diner." Adam frowned. "Mr. Henry, it's freezing and it's a demanding job. I can't ask Ms. Ruby to hire you. You won't ask her to hire me, Mr." Henry countered, pulling at the sleeves of Adam's flannel shirt. "You ask her to let me help. I don't need pay. Just let me earn my soup." There was a quiet, desperate dignity in his plea, the yearning of a man trying to claw back some small piece of the identity he had lost. An hour later, Adam stood at the back delivery door of the Maple Street diner, Mr. Henry Wallace beside him. The old man was slightly cleaner, his beard neatly combed with a borrowed brush, and he carried himself with a hint more verticality. Adam had briefed him, "Do exactly what Ms. Ruby tells you. Don't talk to the customers about your past. If she kicks you out, I tried." Ms. Ruby O'Brien, the owner, was smoking her morning cigarette, her red hair streaked with silver, pulled back tightly, her sharp blue eyes fixed on the newcomers. "Oh, for the love of the saints," Ms. Ruby muttered, crushing her cigarette under her boot heel. "You've come back Harlow and brought a mascot." Her voice was rough, but her initial alarm at seeing Mr. Henry had dissipated somewhat. He no longer looked like a threat, just a deeply tired old man. "Ms. Ruby, this is Mr. Henry Wallace." Adam began trying to keep his voice neutral. "He's helping my family out right now. He's insisting on working. He's happy to do odd jobs, wiping tables, taking trash, sweeping anything. He doesn't need payment, just maybe an occasional meal." Ms. Ruby looked Mr. Henry up and down again. She saw the trembling hands, the confused fog still lurking at the edge of his gaze, but also the determined set of his jaw. She looked at Adam, sensing the intense emotional weight behind the request. "I've hired worse employees who had full use of their faculties," she grumbled, pushing open the back door. "All right, old man, you can wipe tables, you can take the garbage out. Don't you talk to the customers, don't you spill coffee on my clean floors, and don't you break anything. You get one free bowl of soup a shift, not a penny more." "Understand," Mr. Henry's eyes widened slightly, then he nodded quickly as if afraid she would revoke the offer. "Yes, ma'am, thank you." And just like that, Mr. Henry Wallace had a place to be. The first few days were difficult. Mr. Henry was slow, his movements stiff and hesitant. He wiped tables with a deliberate, almost academic focus, passing his cloth over the same spot 3 times. Adam kept a constant nervous eye on him, half expecting him to drop a tray or simply wander off. But to Adam's surprise, Mr. Henry kept up. He never complained. He took breaks only when told, and he approached every task with a quiet, dogged determination. It was clear he was trying to prove his worth, not to Ms. Ruby, but to himself. Ms. Ruby surprisingly mostly tolerated him. She would bark orders, "Wallace table 7 needs bussing, get moving." But Adam often caught her observing him over the counter, a faint, unreadable expression on her face. Once she muttered to Adam, "He's got good hands, that one." Precise, like a surgeon or maybe a safecracker. What the heck did he do before that question was the central mystery. And over the ensuing weeks, the answer began to surface in strange, unsettling ways. During their lunch break, one dreary afternoon, Adam found Mr. Henry sitting in the back storage room, staring intensely at his hands. He was flexing his fingers, curling them and extending them repeatedly. "Everything okay, Mr. Henry?" Adam asked, sitting down on a crate next to him. Mr. Henry didn't look up immediately. I feel like I used to know how to do something with these. Something complicated, not wiping grease, something involving numbers. He pressed his fingers against his temple, wincing slightly. I see flashes, Adam. Not faces, not places, but shapes, charts, graphs. People in suits talking about assets and dividends. It comes and goes like static on a television. Adam leaned in gently. It sounds like you were in business, Mr. Henry. Maybe an accountant, maybe someone working in finance. Finance. Mr. Henry repeated the word, tasting it. Yes, I think so. There's a pressure, a feeling of high stakes, like I made decisions that affected many people. I just can't grasp the details. His confusion was palpable, the effort of memory exhausting him. You'll get it back, sir. Just keep working. The routine is good for you, Adam encouraged him. Mr. Henry sighed, looking out at the back alley. If not, then I am nothing but a man who knows how to wipe crumbs. You are a man who has a warm place to sleep and a family that cares about him. Mr. Henry Adam corrected him firmly. That's something. The weeks bled into the new year 2018. The financial tension in Adam's apartment was still high, but the emotional tension had eased considerably. Mr. Henry, having been taken in on Christmas Eve, had quietly integrated into the small family unit. He spent hours listening to Mrs. Carroll's stories about growing up in the city in the 1960s and 1970s. He helped Lily with her simple 6-year-old math homework, and though his memories were patchy, his ability to understand basic arithmetic was sharp and instantaneous. Mr. Henry, if I have 3 cookies and I eat one, how many left? Lily would ask. 2, he would reply instantly without hesitation. He never missed a calculation. It was one of the few things his mind could still grasp. Most importantly, Lily had attached herself to him completely. She held his hand tightly during the walk to Mrs. Kim's, chattering non-stop about her school day. Mr. Henry listened with an expression of quiet, focused contentment. He was no longer the empty shadow Adam had found. He was present, responsive, and seemed to draw strength and purpose from the simple, fierce love surrounding him. Ms. Ruby, seeing the diligence and the improvement, had even given Mr. Henry a formal raise 2 weeks into January 2018, 1 free full hot meal per shift instead of just soup. Don't tell anyone I'm getting soft Harlow, she'd growled, slipping Mr. Henry a generous portion of pot roast. He needs the protein. He looks like a scarecrow. Despite the slow but steady improvement, the central conflict remained. Mr. Henry was lost, but the memories were fighting back. One brisk afternoon in late January 2018, a well-dressed gentleman in a tailored coat stopped Mr. Henry as he was wiping the counter. "Excuse me," the gentleman said, his voice hesitant but hopeful. "I know this is odd, but have we met? You look incredibly familiar. Are you perhaps in the financial sector?" Mr. Henry froze. The cleaning cloth slipped from his trembling hand. For a split second, something flashed in his eyes, not confusion, but a deep, startling recognition. I don't know, mister," Henry stammered, pulling back instinctively. "I'm sorry. I don't remember." The man apologized profusely, blaming the deceitful lightning. But Adam, who had seen the entire exchange from the grill, saw the exact moment the flicker of recognition had vanished, replaced by the familiar weary fog. Mr. Henry had almost remembered. His past was not only important, it was actively looking for him. The man Adam had saved was once someone significant, someone who mattered in a world far removed from the Maple Street diner. Adam knew it was only a matter of time before the threads of Mr. Henry's real life either broke completely or pulled him back into the light. The simple, quiet life Adam Carter had constructed around Mr. Henry Wallace stretched into late February 2026. 3 months had passed since that desperate Christmas Eve encounter. Mr. Henry was thriving. He had gained back weight, his cough was gone, and the trembling in his hands had lessened, replaced by a focused steadiness when he worked. He was a fixture at the Maple Street diner, and an anchor in Adam's small, busy home. But the memory fragments were becoming more insistent, and the occasional flicker of recognition in Mr. Henry's eyes was becoming harder for Adam to ignore. Adam found himself feeling a strange blend of fear and obligation. Fear that Mr. Henry would leave, and obligation to help the man find his way back to his true life, whatever that might be. The catalyst arrived on a slow Tuesday afternoon. A delivery driver named Rick, a massive man with a perpetually cheerful disposition, backed his beat-up white van up to the diner's loading dock. Rick handled all the bread and pastry deliveries for the district and was one of Ms. Ruby's most reliable vendors. "Hey, Adam, happy Tuesday," Rick bellowed as he wheeled in a dolly stacked high with crates. "Say that old fella's still working for you, the one who wipes the tables, Mr. Henry." "Yeah, he's back there helping Ms. Ruby with inventory," Adam replied, signing the invoice. Rick leaned in, his voice dropping slightly, though still loud enough to carry. "Look, I know this is random, but that guy. He looks exactly like a photo I saw taped up at the First National Bank building downtown a few months back. I mean, exactly." Adam's blood ran cold. He had dismissed the memory fragments, the tailored suit customer, the hints of high finance, but a flyer posted in the financial district. This was tangible. A flyer. "What did it say?" Adam asked, trying to sound casual. Rick scratched his head. "Missing person, I think. Big font, black and white photo. Had a name. Something like Bancroft." "Yeah, that was it. I remember because the photo was high quality, looked like a CEO or something. I even thought about mentioning it back then, but the old guy looked pretty rough, so I figured it was just a coincidence." Adam's mind raced, a sudden blinding clarity cutting through the months of gentle denial. He had focused so much on the human need that he had ignored the glaring mystery. Mr. Henry was not just a vagrant with amnesia, he was someone who had been actively lost. Rick Adams said urgently, pulling the man aside. "That name, that bank building. Do you remember who posted the flyer, or if there was a number?" "Anything?" Rick frowned, searching his memory. "No man's sorry. It was just one of a dozen signs on the public bulletin board. But hey, I can ask around my route, see if anyone still has one of those old posters. I hit a lot of offices downtown. Please, Rick, if you find anything, a phone number, a name, even just an old picture, it could change everything." For the next 3 days, Adam lived in a state of nervous anticipation. He watched Mr. Henry at work, observing his steady movements, the lingering air of authority he carried despite his humble job, the way he would occasionally tap his fingers to an unheard rhythm, like a restless executive waiting for a quarterly report. On Friday, Rick pulled up to the diner, not with crates, but with a piece of paper clutched in his hand. "Adam, I got it." Took some digging, but the janitor at the Sterling Plaza still had a stack in his storage closet. They stopped posting them weeks ago, but here. Adam took the paper. It was a standard, slightly faded missing person flyer, printed professionally in black and white. His hands, usually so steady when juggling plates or cleaning, trembled uncontrollably as he read the bold text, "Missing Theodore Theo Bancroft, retired investor. Last seen, September 2017. Below the heading was a high-resolution photograph. The man in the picture was impeccably dressed in a dark suit, his silver hair neatly combed, a strong, serious expression on his face. The differences were stark. The expensive clothes, the groomed appearance, yet the structure of the face, the particular set of the jaw, and the pale blue eyes were undeniable. It was Mr. Henry. Adam's breath hitched. He wasn't just Henry Wallace, he was Theodore Bancroft. The smaller print listed a contact, Olivia Bancroft, and a phone number and an address on West Hills Drive. The realization was a heavy, sacred weight in Adam's chest. He hadn't rescued a nobody. He had unknowingly sheltered a millionaire, a patriarch, someone with a daughter who had been desperately searching for him for months. He shoved the flyer into his pocket and walked straight into the diner kitchen. Mr. Henry was stacking clean coffee mugs near the machine. Adam approached him slowly, his heart hammering against his ribs. Mr. Henry Adams said, his voice quiet but urgent. "I need you to look at something." He pulled the flyer out, laying it flat on a clean section of the stainless steel counter. Mr. Henry looked down. He picked up the paper, his hands suddenly ceasing their familiar tremor. His eyes scanned the headline, the photograph, the dates. The change was instantaneous and dramatic. It was as if a curtain had been violently ripped away from his mind. His pale eyes widened, no longer foggy, but fiercely lucid. His body stiffened, and he inhaled a sharp, rattling breath. Bancroft. He whispered the name, catching in his throat. He looked at the photograph, then quickly back at the contact information. He pressed his free hand to his temple, breathing hard. Theodore. That's me. That's my name. His gaze fell upon the name below the contact number, Olivia Bancroft. Olivia. He exhaled the name soft with anguish and recognition. My daughter. My Ava. Tears welled up instantly, but these were not tears of confusion. They were tears of sudden crushing memory. "I know that place," he stated, pointing a determined, steady finger at the West Hills address. "That is my home. Adam, I need to go. Now. We have to go." The force of his regained identity was staggering. The lost vagrant was gone, replaced by a man of purpose. Adam nodded immediately. Ms. Ruby, who had been watching the exchange with wide eyes from the grill, simply waved a hand dismissively. "Go. Take him home, Harlow." Adam grabbed his coat. He couldn't afford a taxi, so the bus it would have to be. The bus ride was an exercise in tension. Mr. Henry Theodore sat gripping the flyer, his lips moving silently, presumably repeating the names and address. He stared out the window, his eyes darting across the passing neighborhoods, seeking a connection, a familiar landmark. An accident. Theodore mumbled piece by piece, the memories rushing back like a breaking dam. A truck. My head. I woke up, I didn't know where I was, I just walked away. I walked away from everything. When the bus finally stopped near the designated route, Theodore leapt up before Adam could even steady himself. They stepped onto the sidewalk of West Hills. The houses here were sprawling, set back from the road behind manicured lawns and wrought iron fences. These were not homes built from struggle and hard work. They were homes built from massive success. Adam instantly felt the friction of this environment against his worn coat and heavy reality. Theodore, however, was oblivious to the difference. He walked with a renewed, urgent strength until he reached a large, immaculate white house with dark green shutters. "That's it," Theodore whispered, his voice trembling, but completely clear. "That's my home. The roses, the porch light." "I remember." Adam hung back slightly as Theodore ascended the steps. The old man, no longer frail, raised a steady hand and pressed the doorbell. The chime echoed loud and expectant. A moment later, the door swung open. Standing there was a woman in her early 30s, tall, elegant, even in her exhausted state, with dark hair and wide, distraught brown eyes. Her face was lined with the unmistakable strain of months of worry and despair. She looked at the man on her porch, bearded and wearing clothes that were clearly too big for him, and then she looked closer. Her eyes scanned his face, his hairline, the unshakable structure of his brow. Then she broke. "Dad," she cried out, the single word carrying the weight of months of agonizing searching. Theodore staggered, the reality of his daughter's presence a physical blow. "Olivia," he choked out, his voice raw. Ms. Ava Wallace surged forward, catching him before he could fall, wrapping her arms tightly around his neck. Theodore collapsed against her, sobbing uncontrollably. They clung to each other on the porch, a broken family instantly and violently knitted back together. Adam watched from a respectful distance, his throat tight, witnessing a miracle he had unwittingly set in motion. He didn't belong in this moment. He was the stranger, the simple delivery man of a lost patriarch. He began to back away quietly, intending to slip into the anonymity of the night. Wait. Ms. Ava Wallace looked up, her face tear-streaked but radiant with relief. She saw Adam, the quiet, worried man standing by the railing. "Please don't leave," she pleaded, holding her father with one arm while extending a hand to Adam. "Please, you have to tell me how. You have to come in." Adam nodded slowly, his heart filled with an overwhelming, unexpected peace. He had completed his simple, strange Christmas duty. He stepped across the immaculate threshold, ready to tell the extraordinary tale of a cold alley, a warm plate of meatloaf, and the kindness of Christmas Eve. Chapter 4. Gratitude and the New Opportunity. The Bancroft home on West Hills Drive was everything Adam Carter's apartment was not: spacious, silent, and effortlessly elegant. The polished hardwood floors gleamed, reflecting the soft light from the recessed fixtures. Expensive artwork and photographs, many featuring the younger, vital face of Theodore Bancroft, lined the walls, testifying to a life of success and stability. Adam felt keenly out of place, clutching his worn coat as Ava Wallace guided her father to a plush sofa. The reunion's immediate frantic energy had subsided into a sacred quiet. Theodore, now simply Dad to Ava, was sitting still, clutching her hand, his eyes drifting over the familiar room as fragments of his life rushed back to fill the void. Ava, her tears finally controlled, turned to Adam. "Please sit down. Let me get you something." "A drink. Some tea." Her voice was thick with exhaustion and overwhelming relief. Adam sat gingerly on the edge of a large armchair. "I should call my mother Ms. Wallace. She'll be worried." "Of course. Here." Ava quickly handed him a cordless phone, while Adam stepped into the hallway to briefly reassure Mrs. Carroll that Mr. Henry was safe and had found his family. Ava retrieved a glass of water for him and sat across the room watching her father. When Adam returned, Ava began to speak, filling in the terrifying blanks of the last 3 months. "His name is Theodore Bancroft. He built a small fortune in the late 1990s and 2000s with technology investments. He retired in 2016 but stayed active on several community boards. 4 months ago, in September 2017, he was in a severe car accident. A truck ran a red light. He survived, but he sustained a traumatic brain injury." Ava's voice cracked. "The doctor said he regained consciousness at the scene, but the trauma was so severe he experienced dissociative amnesia. He didn't know who he was or where he was, panicked, and just walked away before the paramedics could secure him." Ava explained the desperate, exhaustive search that followed private investigators, countless flyers calls to every shelter and hospital in the region. "We feared the worst," she admitted, running a tired hand through her hair. "We thought he was gone. And all this time he was here, just lost inside the city." Adam nodded, piecing together the diner fragments, the financial glimpses, the man who was so obviously more than the homeless figure he had found. "So you found him in an alley on Christmas Eve?" Ava asked, her eyes searching Adam's, trying to reconcile the narrative of desperation with the quiet integrity of the man before her. Adam recounted the story, simply: the cold, the meatloaf, the spontaneous decision to invite a stranger to Christmas dinner. He left out none of the details, including the poverty of his own life. Ava listened intently. When Adam finished, a profound silence descended. She stood walking over to her father, who was now resting peacefully still, holding her hand. "Adam," she said, turning back, her voice firm with conviction, "you saved his life, not just from the cold, but from the oblivion of being completely lost. You saw a human being in need, not a problem, and you did the one thing that no one else was willing to risk. You invited him into your home on Christmas Eve when you had nothing to spare." She paused, taking a deep breath. "I don't know how to repay that." Adam stood quickly, uncomfortable with the intensity of her gaze. Ms. Wallace, please. I didn't do it for repayment. I have to go now. My mother and daughter are waiting. Wait, Ava insisted, stepping toward him. I understand you need to leave, but this is where our conversation begins, not ends. The next 2 days were a whirlwind for Adam, filled with anxiety and unexpected calls. Ava, driven by an overwhelming sense of responsibility and gratitude, moved with the precision of a seasoned executive. She initiated the steps necessary to verify Adam's character. She contacted Ms. Ruby at the Maple Street Diner. Ms. Ruby, initially defensive, became fiercely protective when questioned. Is Adam some kind of saint? No. He's a tired kid working too hard. Did he bring that old man in? Yes. Did he risk his job for him? Yes. Did he ever ask for a dime? Never. If you think he's trying to scam you, you're looking at the wrong man, Ms. Bancroft. He's the real deal. Ava also reached out to Mrs. Carroll. Mrs. Carroll, speaking with the measured protectiveness of a mother, confirmed every detail. The cold night, the small apartment, the selfless choice Adam made, and the genuine affection Lily had developed for Mr. Henry. Mrs. Carroll, without asking for anything, simply conveyed the dignity of their struggle. Ava's thoroughness, rather than making Adam feel scrutinized, made the potential offer feel more sincere. She wasn't acting on impulse, she was acting on confirmed conviction. On the third afternoon, Ava arrived at Adam's apartment driving a modest but pristine black sedan. She came alone. Adam, she said, stepping into the tiny living room, instantly making the space feel smaller. I've spoken to Ms. Ruby and to your mother. I know everything I need to know. She looked directly at him. My gratitude is profound, but I want to do more than simply thank you. Theodore and I are fortunate. We have resources, and you are a man of impeccable character who deserves security and opportunity. She laid a slim leather-bound folder on the coffee table. My company, Bancroft Green Ventures, is a large organization. We have needs across the board, not just for MBAs. I'm offering you a position as program coordinator for our community engagement initiatives. It's stable work full-time with a high salary one that would allow you to pay off your debts and stop worrying about the electric bill. Adam stared at the folder, his mind reeling. Ms. Wallace, I don't have a college degree. I'm a diner cook. You have proven skills that cannot be taught in any business school. Adam, Ava countered, her voice resolute. Integrity, empathy, and the ability to manage complex crises under pressure. You took in a man with severe trauma and successfully integrated him into a functioning, loving family unit. That is extraordinary coordination and management. She leaned forward, her expression softening. I know you didn't do this for money, and that is precisely why I want to help you. The money is not a reward. It's an investment in a good man. Adam was speechless. The relief that washed over him was overwhelming, threatening to buckle his knees. It wasn't just the money. It was the respect, the validation of years of unseen effort. Then Ava mentioned the real prize. And there is Lily, she continued softly. Theodore told me about her. She's 6, right? My father's accident was caused by carelessness. I want Lily's future to be secured against carelessness. My company runs a private scholarship trust. I would like to guarantee Lily a full scholarship starting immediately for any school you choose through college. Security and opportunity. The words scholarship and college detonated in Adam's mind. Everything he had ever sacrificed for every sleepless night he had spent worrying about Lily's future, every debt he had incurred, all of it came down to this moment. He could give Lily the foundation he had always dreamed of, a foundation built on his one act of reckless kindness. He looked at Ava, her expression sincere, warm, and without a trace of pity. In her deep brown eyes, he saw only profound respect. Adam swallowed hard, his voice rough with emotion. I accept, Ms. Wallace. I accept not for myself, but for my daughter. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Ava smiled a genuine, beautiful smile that erased months of worry from her face. "Welcome aboard, Adam Carter. I think this is going to be a very good partnership." The immediate urgent purpose of their connection, Theodore's safety, was resolved, but in its place a new, unforeseen chapter of opportunity and hope had begun. Chapter 5. A new chapter of love and family. Life for Adam Carter transformed with a speed he could barely comprehend. The cramped apartment above the pharmacy was exchanged for a spacious sunlit house in a quieter neighborhood, still far from West Hills, but a universe away from his old struggles. Lily began attending a small, excellent private school that Ava's scholarship fund supported her bright mind, blossoming under the personalized attention. Mrs. Carroll, too, found meaningful part-time work within Bancroft Green Ventures' philanthropic arm managing volunteers for local community projects. The crushing weight of debt and daily worry finally lifted. Adam's new role as program coordinator was challenging but immensely rewarding. He discovered a knack for connecting with people, a skill honed by years of empathetic listening at the diner. He oversaw initiatives that helped other struggling families, and the irony was not lost on him. His own journey had equipped him perfectly for a job that demanded not just efficiency, but genuine compassion. Amidst this whirlwind of change, Adam found himself interacting with Ava Wallace almost daily. She was his direct superior, a formidable businesswoman with an astute mind and an unwavering commitment to her family's legacy. But beneath the polished executive exterior, Adam saw the woman who had cried tears of agony and relief on her porch, the daughter who adored her father. Their initial interactions were strictly professional, defined by gratitude and respectful boundaries. Yet as weeks turned into months, something deeper began to stir. They often stayed late at the office discussing project strategies, but the conversations would inevitably drift. They talked about their pasts, Adam sharing memories of his late wife Emily, the bittersweet ache of their shared dreams and the sudden void she left in 2015. Ava, in turn, spoke of the profound grief of losing her mother in 2011 and the agonizing period when her father Theodore had disappeared. They connected over the shared topography of their losses. Both had known the profound solitude of carrying a heavy burden alone, Adam the weight of providing for Lily, Ava the weight of a massive company and a missing father. This shared understanding formed an unspoken bond, a recognition of strength and vulnerability. Adam found himself admiring Ava's resilience, her intelligence, and the deep well of kindness that lay beneath her professional demeanor. She, in turn, was drawn to Adam's quiet strength, his unwavering integrity, and the pure, unselfish love he held for Lily. He was a stark contrast to the often cynical and self-serving men she encountered in the corporate world. "You know," Ava confessed one evening after a particularly long meeting as they walked out of the office building in downtown Portland, the city lights shimmering around them. "When I found Dad and he told me about you, I was skeptical. Scared, really. You hear so many stories of people taking advantage." Adam nodded, understanding. "I expected it. I would have done the same. But then I spoke to Ms. Ruby, and your mother Ava continued stopping on the sidewalk, turning to face him. They didn't just confirm your story. They painted a picture of a truly good man. A man who put another human being's life before his own comfort, even his own safety. That kind of selfless act. It's rare, Adam. It's what built the foundation for everything that came after." Adam looked into her eyes, seeing the genuine sincerity there. "You've given me and my family a life we could only dream of, Ava. The debt is repaid many times over." Ava shook her head gently. "No, some debts aren't financial. Some are of the heart. And in that, Adam, we are only just beginning to even the scales." One evening, after dropping Lily off at a friend's house for a sleepover, Adam found himself in the grand yet welcoming living room of the Bancroft home. Theodore, now fully recovered, his mind sharp, and his spirit revitalized, was playing chess with Mrs. Carroll, their laughter echoing softly. Ava was on the phone in her study, her voice a low murmur. Adam sat on the sofa, a book unread in his hands. He realized he wasn't waiting for Lily. He was simply content to be there, content to be in the orbit of this warm, unconventional family. When Ava emerged, she paused, seeing him. "Trouble sleeping?" she asked, a soft smile touching her lips. "Just enjoying the peace," Adam admitted, setting the book down. They talked for hours that night about nothing and everything. The conversation flowed effortlessly, moving from lighthearted banter to deep personal reflections. It was then, in the quiet intimacy of that shared space, that Adam truly recognized the blooming of something new. He felt a connection with Ava that went beyond gratitude or professional respect. It was a yearning for partnership, for shared future, for love. He was terrified. He was a diner cook, a single father, a man who had built a life on grit and scraping by. She was the heiress to a fortune, a successful executive. The disparity was immense, but as he looked at her, he realized the only difference that mattered was the one in his heart. He took a chance. "Ava," he began, his voice a little shaky. I think I'm falling in love with you." Her eyes widened, but there was no shock, only a gentle knowing warmth. "I know, Adam," she whispered, stepping closer. "I think I'm falling in love with you too." It was a year later, in June 2018. The Bancroft family estate, with its sprawling, meticulously kept gardens, was bathed in the soft glow of late afternoon sun. The air hummed with the joyful chatter of close friends and family. Adam Carter, looking handsome and impossibly happy in a tailored suit, stood at the altar beneath an archway, adorned with white roses and green foliage. His heart pounded with a rhythm that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with profound joy. Lily, now a confident 7-year-old, looking like a little angel in a white dress, stood proudly as the flower girl. Beside her, his mother, Mrs. Carroll, dabbed at her eyes with a lace handkerchief, a smile of pure contentment on her face. Then the music swelled, and all eyes turned to the garden path. Ms. Ava Wallace, radiant and breathtaking in a simple, elegant white gown, walked down the aisle. On her arm was her father, Theodore Bancroft. His silver hair was perfectly combed, his suit impeccable, and his eyes, clear and bright, shone with an emotion that encompassed pride, love, and a deep, unshakable peace. He was no longer Mr. Henry Wallace, the lost old man from the alley. He was Theodore, the patriarch, the man whose journey had brought them all to this moment. As they reached Adam, Theodore paused. He looked at Adam, a silent acknowledgement of the incredible journey they had shared, the kindness that had set everything in motion. Then, with a proud and gentle smile, he placed Ava's hand into Adam's. He had not only given his daughter away, but he had, in a way, given them both back to each other, full circle. The ceremony was brief, heartfelt, and deeply personal. The vows they exchanged were not just promises for the future, but testaments to a shared past, one forged in unlikely circumstances. After the vows, as the minister prepared to pronounce them husband and wife, Theodore stepped forward. He had insisted on a special role for himself. "Before we conclude this blessed union," he said, his voice strong and clear, resonating with a lifetime of authority and wisdom, "I wish to say a few words. This marriage, this family we are forming, is a testament to the greatest force in the universe, kindness." He looked at Adam, then at Ava, then at Lily. One cold Christmas Eve in 2017, a struggling young man, a complete stranger, extended a hand to an old man who had lost everything, even himself. He did it without expectation, without judgment, solely out of the goodness of his heart. That one act of pure, selfless kindness did not just save my life. It began a chain of events that has led to this moment. It led to my daughter finding love, to Lily finding a complete family, and to all of us finding a home. He raised his hand. May this family always remember the power of that initial kindness. May it be the foundation of all your days. Adam and Eva, hand in hand, looked at each other, their hearts overflowing. Lily, now nestled between them, reached up and took their hands. They were no longer two separate lives, but a tapestry woven with threads of struggle, hope, compassion, and unexpected love. They settled into the bank raft-off estate, the grand house now filled with the laughter of Lily, the gentle wisdom of Mrs. Carroll, and the reunited presence of Theodore. It was a blended family, beautiful in its imperfections and resilient in its bonds. Adam Carter, the single father who had once worried about the next meal, had found not just security, but a profound and enduring love, all sparked by a simple act of compassion on a cold Christmas Eve in 2017. His destiny and the destinies of so many others had been irrevocably changed, proving that the smallest act of genuine kindness can indeed change the world. And so as Adam and Eva began their new life, their story reminds us of a timeless, powerful truth. Sometimes the greatest reward for an act of kindness is not fortune, but the profound, unexpected change it brings to our own destiny. That simple decision on a cold Christmas Eve proved that true wealth is measured not in assets, but in the depth of compassion we share. If this heartwarming journey touched your spirit, please consider becoming part of our growing community by subscribing, liking, and sharing this tale of hope. We invite you now to click on the new video on your screen and join us for another story where small actions lead to life's biggest miracles.